Today we're going to be building a DIY affordable hanging hide for any of your animals that are arboreal, or maybe you can even put this on the ground if you attach it properly. So blowing up a balloon, this is going to basically be like how large your hide is, so you can use this however you'd like, make it larger or smaller. Today we're going to be using 3-inch big gap, great stuff foam, and this little basket I'm using to put a plant in the side. That's optional. And then I'm using some leaf litter to decorate the outside. You can pretty much put whatever you want on your hide, whether it's depending on, what kind of enclosure it's going in. Maybe you just want to do sand. I'm also doing some sphagnum moss as well. And I'm using a zip tie to attach to the top just to make it easy for me to hang this in my enclosure. There's probably a better way to do this. Maybe twine would look a little bit better, but I kind of just used what I had. Make sure you use gloves if you get this gap filler on anything you own, including your hands. It will pretty much never come off. I've ruined way too many pajamas like this. So yeah. Next, I'm going to be mapping out the opening and the hole for my hide. So depending on what kind of animal you have, you can kind of make this whatever you need it to be for their needs. Then you're going to foam around this, and I will tell you to use the entire can of foam because it will dry out and it will be a waste of money. Then I'm kind of taking a little coffee stirrer to kind of spread this together so there are no gaps. The idea is to let as little light in here as possible, so it's not only a moist hide, but it is a dark hide. I had to string this up in the laundry room.
I could have done this on the next step where I could have just laid this kind of flat onto something on this side, and so this gravity would just hold this on here. But I kind of just jimmy rigged this here.
Now I'm going to foam the rest of this basket on here and leave the bottom completely open so that the plant can drain. And in hindsight, I wish that I would have actually used a bigger one because this is only going to house a very tiny plant, but it's still cute nonetheless. Here I added some twine because I was planning on siliconing that or adding something to it so it looked like little vines hanging off of it, but I ended up cutting that off at the end of the day. So what I'm doing here is I'm shaping this exactly how I want it. Now, a lot of ways that you use foam, you have to cut off all the shiny areas for things to adhere to it, but that's one reason why I use dry lock, which I'll show you in a second. So once I kind of carved this into the shape that I wanted it to be, I grabbed my dry lock. It's in white. I use white so that I can color it. And this is just regular paint. So I'm adding some different greens and whatnot to it, and just a regular acrylic, a paint. You can kind of create the color that you want. So first I'm going to go ahead and create the green that I want. And honestly, I added too much of the white Tri-Lock to this. I had to use so much freaking paint. So just start with a little because a little goes a long way. I painted this first with the lighter green that I created, and I just got in all the nooks and crannies and kind of just went over the entire thing. Now, depending on what kind of look you're going for, you can use, browns if you want this to look more like rock, even though rock doesn't usually form in this shape and it is a balloon. You can kind of create whatever you'd like. You can even use those long balloons that they use for balloon animals if you want something that is a little bit more of a cave kind of situation. But after I do the light green all over, I went in and I did some of the darker shades of green and dark. It was close to a black almost in kind of the crevices just to give it a little bit more dimension. And I will admit, I probably could have spent a little more time finessing this and making the paint look exactly how I wanted it. But I was honestly super excited to get this into my green tree python's enclosure. That is the animal that I created this for. And I'm actually doing a cage build on that. Actually, I shouldn't say I'm doing it. I've already finished it, and this was just part one. So very soon that video will be out, but you can kind of paint this however you want. I probably could have also added maybe even more foam and shaped this more like how I wanted it because it ended up kind of looking a little bit like a brain, which actually is kind of cool. But if you want it to look less like a brain / moss ball, you could definitely add more of the foaming stuff and kind of shape it exactly how you'd like it. I'm doing some dark paint by kind of the opening of this hide just to give it a little bit more dimension. And a lot of this is dry brush, so it's just very faint and almost looks more like a shadow as opposed to like paint sitting on there. So definitely use some cheap brushes from Home Depot or whatever. I ended up using some like makeup brushes just because I have so many. But yeah, you can do that. And then once that's all done, this is kind of the fun part. Save some of your dark paint, by the way. I did not do this, and I highly recommend doing this. Learn from my mistakes. But you get to pop the balloon that is inside and kind of cut that extra rubber away. The one thing that I would recommend doing that I didn't do, that I plan on still doing, is I would add some black paint to the inside. Make sure it's like an acrylic or something like that that's not going to harm your animal. But you could actually see a bit of the blue balloon that had kind of cracked that's on the inside once it's actually in the cage. So I highly recommend going back through and going in and putting a bit of that paint in there to darken it up. Here I am not realizing that I am filming in slow motion, so I ended up speeding this up a bit for you, but I used a little bit of glue to kind of add some of the moss to the outside and some of the leaves and whatnot, and this kind of worked out really well, just made it look a little bit more foresty and more mossy, if you will. So I kind of just added that all over the place. And please excuse the Christmas tree. I definitely did film this during Christmas. That is how long I've been sitting on these clips, guys. I'm so sorry. I've been very busy, but I'm excited to continue making some more content for you guys. So in a moment, I will show you the final hide in its home. Here is the finished hide. You can kind of see what I'm talking about putting maybe some of the dark paint inside so you don't see that cream colored cracks where the gap filler stuff is. I wouldn't say this is my best work, but I think it is definitely pretty cool and it serves its purpose very well. It was easy to do and it's kind of cool that you get to customize exactly how you want. So let me know if you create this and how yours turns out. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.